can see that.
So I think it just popped up. But you know how the algorithms work.
Yeah,
So
we all see different stuff. Yeah.
I interviewed a young man this morning who was born in Russia, then moved to Kazakhstan when he was 2. From there to Israel. He said his father got the green card lottery. Went to high school in San Francisco, went to college at Middlebury, speaks Russian, Hebrew, Japanese, Arabic, Spanish, French.
Wow.
He's in his 20s. So he works at Oracle full time, but he's trying to cultivate I wouldn't say lead generation business, but kind of a meeting generation business. And a friend of mine in San Francisco who went to high school with referred him to me.
Wow. Interesting.
And I told him, I said, it's a constant challenge and discussion in the orthopedic world on how do startups make new business.
Hmm. Yep.
So I told him I'd talk to him at 7 a.m. tomorrow morning and I'm more on it. So,
Wow.
but he was an interesting guy.
Yeah, he'll do well in life, I'm sure, if he's that flexible and that smart to accumulate all those skills
Well, he
early.
got a full. I talked to the guy that referred him to me in San Francisco, a good friend of mine that actually he's a business partner. We do lead generation together. Josh, we had him on your program,
Yeah, yeah, Josh was great. Yeah.
and he told me the guy got a full scholarship to Middlebury
Wow.
and for liberal arts. I mean,
The people that come out of Russia or Soviet Union, Ukraine are just so industrious.
the ones that make it to us,
Yeah.
not
Yeah,
the ones that not the ones that sit there and drink themselves to death.
Yeah, Laura Land and I we have a common friend, Arena Timmerman. Um, you're on mute, Laura Land, but um, she worked at Wright Medical for I don't know 30 years, maybe 40 years.
Did
But
she finally retire? She must have
I think
retired
she
by now,
retired, yeah.
kind of
But I
recently.
took her out to lunch one day. I said, Laura Land, I said, Arena, tell me your story. And she was born in the Soviet Union, and the family faked a vacation to Italy, and they just packed suitcases and they checked the suitcases when they left. They left their house, their cars, everything. Didn't tell anybody. They went to Italy, and they had an arranger to get them to the U.S. And they said you can either go to New York or Memphis. And the father picked Memphis because they said if we go to New York, we'll never learn English. We'll hang out in the Russian
All the Russian
hotel.
community.
So
Yeah.
they went to Memphis. She had a she was really smart, and she had a engineering degrees from the Soviet Union. They didn't recognize them, so she started all over. She and they had no car. They lived on Summer Avenue, which was a few miles from the university. So she enrolled brand new, walked to the university every day and walked back. I mean, just
Wow.
incredible.
Incredible. And
Incredible.
it's close, but it's not that close.
No, it's not that.
I mean, it's walkable, but it's a long
Yeah.
walk.
And
That's
she did a
incredible.
new 4-year degree, ended up at Wright Medical, and
Hip knee development.
I think adversary is really important in life and careers. I think you have to have big obstacles. Um, you see the trust fund babies don't do well usually, but the people that come from nothing really do well a lot of times.
I've come to learn that if somebody wants to introduce me to somebody and I find out they're of Russian Jewish heritage, I I take that call ASAP
Yeah.
because that's Josh, that's his heritage. The guy I interviewed this morning, that's his heritage. I'm sure that's Arena's heritage. Um, my friend Julia Komisarchek in Salt Lake City, that's her heritage. Her and her father, they're always driven. They don't take anything for granted. Um, and they're always extremely aware of their surroundings. And
Yep.
that's one thing I learned in Vietnam, that everything.
Oh, oh, oh,
Oh,
we lost you.
you froze, Mark.
Yeah, we lost you. Ah! Oh no.
You may have to go off and come back on.
Yeah, he probably is gonna have to.
Hey, Laura Mark was saying that Anne sent out a note. Did you have to RSVP again for the
I
link?
I it didn't show up automatically. I
Okay.
got the email, but it's
Got it.
like not on my calendar anymore.
Oh man,
So I
that's
didn't
what,
get it. I didn't get a I mean, I got a notification yesterday that it was going to be today, right?
right.
But
That
I
was
didn't
for
get
me. Yeah, yeah.
all the other notifications that I have usually gotten.
Oh shoot. All right, I got to talk to Anne. We'll fix that.
So yeah, that may be why.
That's why.
It's, you know what, it's been kind of screwy. The Zoom invitations have been kind of screwy for me for a little while. I haven't gotten, like, I get the email the week before, the day before, I guess, the day before,
24 hours and 1 hour. It should
and
be.
then 1 hour. But I don't know, for a while, anyway, it
We'll figure,
seems,
we'll figure that out. That's important.
yeah.
This was
It's
open
nice to have
discussion.
it as a standing meeting on your calendar, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah.
I just had a power failure at the house,
oh,
Oh my gosh.
or a brief power interruption. That's
but you're back, so that's pretty quickly. It didn't take long for you to sort of,
yeah, I put my internet on my phone,
oh,
hotspot,
okay.
Yeah.
rather than wait for the internet here to recycle.
Yeah, waiting for the
Well, I've
router
got
to.
everything plugged into a battery backup here, so the everything can go down and I'm still alive.
Well, I'm in Memphis, and we have sort of very well-known power outages here, and the XAI thing hasn't made it better. But usually it's
Uh,
with storms. You know,
yeah.
we have great.
We do the same thing in Marietta. We have our own power system, but if the wind blows like it's right now, it's blowing outside, we get a little surge now and then. Just part of living here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I remember that reminds me, I went to surgery in India, rural India, and every time it rains, the power goes out.
Oh gosh,
And and so
that's a problem.
we're literally in surgery. I was in surgery 2 days where everything just shut down and the patient's on the table. And then they did have a diesel generator, but it takes about 20 minutes to kick in. And then they have to boot up the C arm again, and everything. I've never seen that before. That was crazy.
Oh my
Uh,
God. Well, in this day and age of computer, navigated surgery, navigated orthopedic surgery, I know that's one of the things that we always were concerned about is, well, what happens if the power goes out and you lose power to are you going to have to re-register? Are you going to have to redo everything and I'm sure computers have gotten a lot smarter, or the programming has gotten a lot smarter, and
Power is, but you're totally right. Power is going to be an issue going forward because all these data centers and population's growing in the U.S. and we just can't keep up. I think
yeah.
rolling
I'll be
block.
right back. I gotta reset my home alarm.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
When XAI first came to Memphis, they were doing a huge power drain on the grid, and now they've got, kind of they're running diesel turbines and stuff, I think, or natural gas turbines. But we were losing power a lot, and everybody's like, "No, it's not because of that. It's not because of that." I'm like, "It's got to be because of that. How can it
Yeah,
not be?
you were right.
It's
Well,
got to
here's a bunch of topics we can talk about today. I just wrote down, and so one of our BoneChat members, Ben Holmes, you may remember him. He's
Is it
got the
Nanocon? Nanocon?
Nanocon, yeah, the hip interpositional. Anyway, he just raised $4 million yesterday, and
Oh,
that's probably to do his seed. I mean, to do his horse study, I think.
yeah.
So congrats, I sent him a congrats. He said he couldn't make it today, but then the Tecomet Orchid merger, that's kind of big news, happened yesterday. Those two giant suppliers for the orthopedic industry are merging.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so Tecomet and Orchid they make a lot of stuff that orthopedic companies use. And they were the two giants and they merged. And so it's going to be disruptive. It's I think it's gonna hurt the small companies now because the Orchid Techomet's they're just basically gonna work for the big companies only from now on, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think it's going to hurt. I think it's going to hurt the big companies too, because I
Really?
think unless you are Zimmer or Stryker, I'm not sure. I mean, even when we were, at Smith and Nephew as number four after all the consolidation and stuff, we had a hard time getting because we weren't Zimmer or or Stryker or Johnson and Johnson Depew. But I think even they will suffer a little bit. But I know as number four, so I think they're going to hurt. I think they're going to hurt everybody with this. I don't think they're going to.
I think you're right.
And I don't think I think their customer service is going to probably suffer too, right? You
Yeah,
So
know?
everything's
they're suppliers to the orthopedic industry,
yeah,
Yeah.
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 manufacturers. Okay.
Yeah, they make
Manufacture and design,
implants
some
and
design.
instruments and everything.
Okay.
Instrument
Everything.
trays. Yeah, I mean, Zimmer doesn't make instrument trays. They buy them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be disruptive. That's anyway, that was a big one. And then Smith and Nephew bought Integrity Orthopedics, sports med shoulder company. That was a big one. They've got some kind of cuff repair that's supposed to be better. 225 million cash and then 225 million in earnouts that they'll never see. Um, because the big companies don't hit the milestones once they acquire. But and I'm trying to figure out what Integrity Orthopedics revenues were, and kind of the word on the street is 20 to 30 million range, which so that's a big multiple. And I kind of wrote about this. I think this is the age of sports medicine, and I think that's an endorsement if somebody's willing to pay 8 or 9 times sales um, for a sports medicine startup, essentially.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that was a big one. And then the
I
JP
know that
Morgan. Oh, go ahead.
Smith and Nephew is incredibly invested in the shoulder space. And I know they're, because we've had some conversations with their shoulder team, and I know that they are really trying to bridge that divide between, kind of their ortho channel and their sports medicine channel, both strong channels, but, to have products that play in both, I think probably bodes well for them.
Yeah. Here, answer this question, Laura Lynn. I've always heard that all the power at Smith and Nephew used to be in Memphis, and now it's in Massachusetts,
Yeah.
and sort of they're calling the shots. Is that true still?
Um, it it was sort of moving back, to sort of in the middle when I left, but that's been 5 years ago. So I don't really know who has the power, and I don't know many of the players that are there anymore. So I don't know. It seems that orthopedics is coming back into its own. But the all the glitz was on sports medicine all the investment was taken from ortho and put into
Yeah.
after the Arthrocare acquisition, kind of back in that time frame. So that's been a while. That's 10 years probably by now. But anyway, yeah, there was a big shift. And I think it probably is more back to middle because I think maybe they've figured out that they have strength together. And then if you put wound on top of that, there can be a lot of synergies. But I don't, at least last I heard, I think they're still kind of siloed businesses. But I think to have products that play across both spaces. I know the elbow team is really trying to use the elbows. I'm sorry, the shoulder ortho team is trying to use the shoulder sports team synergistically to sell.
Got it.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
Very interesting.
yeah,
Here's Patrick Jamnick. Um, the other big story is JP Morgan, and I've gotten a few notes from people that were there. Said there's a lot of looks like investments coming back into the med tech space. There's a lot of hot stuff, you know, promised, told there. Patrick, did you go to JP Morgan?
No, I haven't been for a number of years to that meeting.
Yeah, it seemed like a lot of positive stuff happening uh, there, but we'll see. Oh, proof is in the pudding.
yeah.
And then sort of the last topic I wrote down was, Treese Medical's just totally hit the wall. They just released earnings. Fourth quarter this year was minus 9% over fourth quarter last year. and their annual revenue is flat in like the low 200s. I mean, they have totally hit the wall.
They fired some people.
Yeah, they have no choice. And here's the thing. So their market cap is 175. They've got 100 million in assets. So you could buy the company for 75 million. I mean, I keep thinking somebody's going to swoop in and buy them, you know, offer a premium in the stock and just take them out for 200, 225. That's like nothing. I mean, Smith and Nephew just bought Integrity Orthopedics for 225. You know, I just seems like that's got to happen, but I could be wrong.
I
Be wrong.
saw an analyst report this week. It wasn't on Trees, but um, I read it really quickly as I was doing a number of other things. But it was an analyst report on it was on Innovis, but I could have swore that it said that the foot and ankle market contracted last year, which has to just be pricing pressure, if you ask me.
Yeah.
That I don't think less plates and screws were sold in the year before, but but I could definitely see like pricing pressure causing that. That it said the foot and ankle. I'll try to find this. It was from a couple days ago. That said the foot and ankle market contracted last year.
They can't be procedure volumes. You're right. It's got to be pricing.
Um,
So in my orthotechnic business, between like 2010 to 2018, we had osteomed up until I guess 2020 or so, pandemic. A bunion repair using osteomed plates and screws might have been $1,600 on the high side. When we took over Treese in 18, by the time I sold it back to them, the ASP was like 4,500. Today, they came to me, they came back to us last year and asked me to pick up some crappy territory in East Tennessee and thing. So, I gave it to Carlos, my surgical guy. Now when he does a bunion there, it's 9 grand.
Gee whiz.
That's the ASP, $9,000. So what Treese has done through their hyper aggressive pricing and add-ons and everything else, they took bunions from probably an ASP of 1,500, sometimes maybe even less, just a couple of screws for a chevron, and they cranked it all the way up to 12 grand, 10 grand. I mean, into what used to be shoulder territory.
Yeah, with knees, that's more than knees and
Oh,
hips. Yeah.
yeah, it says it right
price.
here. This is from a Wells Fargo analyst report after meetings with Innovis. It said foot and ankle showed weakness throughout the year with the market shrinking despite historical 7% annual growth rates. Innova still grew above the market in foot and ankle, but performance was softer than in prior years. So yeah, it says with the market shrinking. It doesn't say by how much, but it says with the market shrinking.
Wow.
When you say, and you think it was pricing, price
I
pressure?
have to. That's my guess. Is that
Yeah, me
like
too.
it's totally not based on anything other than I just if there are people doing $10,000 bunions, it's not a big deal for someone to come in and say we'll do this for eight. So.
Right.
And
Or five.
there's so many product choices now. Yeah, there's 20, 30 bunion
And
systems.
what you actually sell is very undifferentiated. There's different educational offerings and stuff, but what hospitals are paying for, the screws and stuff, is quite, is relatively, without getting into product fights and
Yeah,
people, it's relatively
yeah.
similar.
Yeah, I think that so yeah, I talked to two female podiatrists up in the Northeast, and they said they use Treese because it brings them free patients. It's marketing. It's the only company that just brings people in the front door all day long. And that's they said the products are kind of the same, but they'll always use Treese because they got the funnel of patients.
Well, I know starting in 2019, the distributors contributed, say, 250, $500 a month to their Google ad campaign,
I didn't
and
know
then
that.
they would either match it or double it.
Huh.
And that's absolutely true. They built from the ground up a B2C that drove patients to their champion surgeons or whoever was on their list. And that's exactly right. In fact, the guy who does the lead gen, I'm meeting with him. In fact, I got to leave early. I gave him a business idea. I said, what we need to do is take your program of lead generation to the industry and have them split the cost with the dealers. Because what the industry needs to do for most of their distributors is they got to feed them leads. They got to, lead the horse to water. Otherwise, it just kind of it's too stagnant. The reps are too busy in the OR. They don't have time for sales calls.
Right.
Anyway, Josh loves the idea. We're gonna try it.
Yeah, I
I'll
love
let you
that
know.
idea too. Yeah, I've been talking to a lot of trauma reps. I'm doing a search, and these guys they don't have time to think. I mean, I was supposed to talk to a guy last night. He calls me at 10 o'clock last night saying I'm still in surgery. I can't talk. I mean, it's just, and they're just schlepping materials around. They're checking in trays and making sure things are clean, and I mean, they're doing quality control work. But trauma
Trauma
is
is
so.
especially a young man's game.
It is a young man's game. It is so manually intensive.
That's because none of the techs that work in surgeries these days uh, know their ass from a hole in the ground. They don't know the back table. They don't know the Mayo. If a rep's not there, the doctor's helpless.
Wow.
It's bad.
And what's the reason? They're just hiring cheaper, less trained reps, or
No, no, the reps are good,
reps are
but the
good.
reps know
Okay.
I'm talking about the
The
OR
Surgeons,
staff
tech.
in the OR.
really?
The the OR techs, the staff turnover.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
And
I've
it's
been.
just a more generalist staff. Like
yeah, that's exactly
it's
right.
not you're just dealing with whatever comes in. So plenty of times it's not even orthopedic, let alone orthopedic trauma. It's just when the hours shrink and it gets closer to sort of the third shift, it's just a much more generalist staff.
That
That's
seems sort of anti to what hospitals are sort of going towards, though, right? Because for years we've been hearing about let's get the reps out, let's get the reps out, let's get the reps out. But if they're making, these procedures become so rep dependent, then that seems like that's going against kind of a trend that they've been, sort of pursuing for a number of years now.
Yeah.
Uh,
They
uh,
pursue it and they should do it, but they just can't like they can't quite get themselves um
it's just not a coordinated plan. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
and also I don't think pricing is low enough yet to actually get the reps out. Like I myself think like when everyone says, "Oh, we've been talking about repless models forever and it's never going to happen." Like I actually do think it will happen, but I just think we're not there with the pricing yet. I think when pricing gets to there is a certain point where people just say, forget about it. But
Can't
so
afford to have
far,
the reps there. Yeah.
the reps have just been taking the hits. Like they're either dealing with the pay decreases
Yeah.
or dealing with the increased workload to maintain the same pay. But like basic economics says that like you'll get to a point where you just can't like where it's just it's not possible, or the only people possible to put in there are really worthless because they're sort of so young and so inexperienced and therefore are willing to
Yeah.
accept
Just
pay that makes it all economically
people that
viable.
can carry the trays, right? Back and forth.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
where we're going long term, I think, is the robots are going to take over. I mean, we're not there yet. But did you see what Elon Musk said yesterday? That if he were a young person, he would never go to medical school now because robots are going to be doing all of the surgery. The best surgeon in the world in 5 years will be a robot. And he's working on the new Optimus 3 that just looks like a person, has incredible articulation, no, can think way faster than a human. It's and I think the robots are going to show up down in sterilization first, and then maybe the circulating nurse second, and then surgeons later. But they're cheap, they never complain, they show up on time, they know everything that's ever happened. I don't know. It's
well, I'm not sure I'd want to bet against Elon.
exactly, he usually can see the future or make the future.
I'm working on a project in Atlanta. I read an AP article in December about what happens to kids in school when their parents get evicted in public school. And there's a law called the McKinney-Vento Act that says that your school system has to make arrangements for your student to stay in that same school. So even though you are unhoused and unstable from your housing, you're stable in your school environment. And I said that's a good idea. That's a good law. So I decided from a pro bono standpoint to see what I could do. And I found out that the problem is information access to that low working class unhoused student parents. And so what I'm pitching to the Atlanta school system is they put an AI agent on their website that I will provide.
Hmm.
And that way, that AI agent can always give information 24/7 to someone getting evicted, how to keep their kid in school. But so that's just an AI story. That's the only reason I brought it up.
Wow. Good for you. You have a big heart, Mark. That's you got like a
Right.
10 businesses going and you're trying to help inner city schools.
Yeah, that's great.
I thought it was a good article. Every once in a while, as mercenary as we are, you ought to try to do something good.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Patrick, what's the latest with you?
Um, Not much different. I assume you're talking professionally. I mean,
Yeah,
weather's
yeah.
nice here. Had a nice, nice workout this morning. But um, no, not much new. We've got some creative sort of financing that we're going through right now that we're almost on the back end of. It's very sort of messy and complicated, but at the end of the day, a good thing, I think.
Good.
So, um,
It's for
yeah.
the US business or for the back home, the corporate business?
Well, I mean, on the balance sheet, it all sort of looks the same, but like I know where the money's actually going, and
Got it.
that's here. So, um,
Good.
yeah, yeah.
And do you have some new 15Ks cooking or some
Cooking, I guess you could say, yeah, but
nothing
nothing
imminent?
through that. That's a big sort of point of frustration of mine, and where we need to spend um, meaningful, meaningfully more is pushing, working faster. I've gotten quite annoying with a lot of people saying our size and striker speed is not a winning combination. So, um, um,
Speed is everything, man. There was a leaked memo, so Musk is famous for meeting with his people saying, "What have you accomplished last week?" and tell me what you're going to accomplish this week. It's like holding them accountable. Well, there's a leaked memo from Amazon. Bezos is doing the same thing with his team. I mean, it's like, tell me what you've accomplished this week, or we'll find somebody else. They live week by week.
do you guys know about how Amazon runs meetings? Have you heard
No,
about this?
tell us. No.
So, I think this is very interesting, and I can't get myself to do it completely, but I think I really personally like endorse at least the spirit of the sort of rule, if not taken to its literal conclusion. So at Amazon, when you schedule meetings, first of all, no slides are allowed. These are internal. These are internal meetings. First of all, no slides are allowed. Second of all, you have to, for the meeting participants, you have to show up to the meeting with a memo, a written memo, no less than or no more than 6 pages in length. And you show up, no one reads it ahead of time. And the first portion of the meeting is you sort of hand out the memo, and everyone sits in the room and reads it at the same time, and then you discuss. And the idea behind it is that slides, like PowerPoint, basically has caused us to be sort of bad argument makers. That it's too easy to sort of throw up a handful of bullet points on a slide, and the actual act of like writing out in written form in actual page, sentences and pages typed of, I don't mean physically written, but the actual act of writing it out makes your argument so much crisper to the point where you might even cancel the meeting because you actually realize you have sort of a half-baked or incomplete or kind of bad argument, that the act of writing it out makes it makes everyone, and then reading your actually like well articulated point that you're trying to make, fosters such a richer discussion. That like that's the rule apparently at Amazon. I just learned about this recently, and I think it's a great idea. I don't want to get in the habit of like having to write out memos all the time, but I certainly, at least in spirit, like endorse the idea, because I've had some half-assed arguments that I'm sure made that I can kind of like muscle through a meeting through like how you say things or the way you say things that may not actually be totally like complete. If you had to actually write your points out and make them in written form, they don't sort of stand up to scrutiny as well.
I love that idea.
Writing clarifies, it just crystallizes your ideas. It's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well,
And
that's
I think
something that
that's
I learned by accident that I later started using is when we're having a meeting and somebody puts up a PowerPoint, I would pull the plug on the PowerPoint and make them just do it verbally. And the way I learned that was I was in Phoenix in 2000. We were getting ready to make our first $1 million sale with an orthopedic account for digital imaging. And then my competitor was there, and we were in a restaurant. We were both basically going to pitch side by side, and they forgot their slide projector, and there were slides, and they broke it. So when my turn came, I couldn't show my slides. So I had to do everything by word picture and just talk my way through it, and we got the deal.
wow.
And I just realized that the only reason that happened was that I had rehearsed like it was a Broadway
Yeah.
play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Anyway,
I was going to say. I was going to say kind of the same thing. If I think back to the big presentations that I've done, like in front of the at the national sales meeting in front of 700 reps or whatever, the way you prepare for that for me, is to write it all out, right? It almost becomes, all right, this is what I'm going to say, this is what I'm going to talk about, this is how it's going to be, and then from all of that, you sort of create your very high level kind of presentation that goes along with it. But if you haven't done all that other stuff and you
Mhm.
have a power failure or you have to talk to a customer and you don't have the luxury of all this technology to fall back, it's the way to do it, right? You still
wow,
know what you're going to say. You still
Yeah.
know, and you can do it without looking at your slides, at all. And so I
I
think
can
there's value to that.
I
I
can think
love
of
that.
numerous times being in school, college, grad school, where the teacher, the professor, they would let you bring like one page of notes to the test. So you spend
Right,
all of your
really
time
small.
studying, making this like insanely detailed note sheet, writing as small as you possibly can, and then you bring it to the test and you never use it
And you
because the
don't need
whole
it because you
the
know it
act of
now.
the act of creating the sheet
Yeah, yeah.
is the sufficient amount of studying that you need. That by the time you actually show up for the test, you know the material because you spent all this time creating this note sheet and you learned everything you
That's
needed to
brilliant.
learn in that process.
Good.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Tiger, I got to run.
All right. Thanks, Mark.
I'm sorry I had to leave early today. It was already something I had planned. And if I'd known we were going to have this intimate gathering, I would have changed my schedule.
No worries. No worries. See you next week.
Everybody have a great week.
We'll
Yeah,
get the
you too.
invites
Take
figured
care.
out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Bye.
Thanks, Mark. Yeah, I learned them. I was at Soldier Orthopedics in the 90s and I had to give a big presentation and they sent us to a presentation coach. Man, I learned a lot from her. That's the most I've ever learned. We had a bunch of slides and she said, "Okay, give me your presentation." And then she recorded it. And then she said, "Okay, I'm going to play it back without sound." And she said, "What is this person projecting?" And she said, "It's all body language." She
Uh-huh.
says, "All communication, human to human, is body language." And she said, "Well, she could turn the sound off and say, well, they're nervous, or they don't believe in the slide that they're saying, or they're fidgety, or I mean, and it came through without any audio at all." So she said very few words, maybe one word on a slide, and look straight, never look back at the audience. Always look at look at the audience, not the slide, and connect with the audience. That's the only thing that matters. And man, I learned a lot from her. And she was coaching like CEOs and senators and stuff on how to present. She said also go out in the audience and touch people because that takes if you can walk through an audience while you're presenting, man, that they can't help but lock into what you're saying
That's
because they may be
consistent with the 1960 presidential debate between Nixon and
Kennedy.
JFK,
Yep.
and it was the first one that was ever televised. And famously, the people who watched it on TV thought Kennedy won, and the people who only listened to it on the radio thought Nixon won.
Oh,
And it's all about camera presence, body
Yeah,
language,
yeah.
those types of things. Nixon was saying, I mean, obviously I wasn't I wasn't alive, but Nixon was saying things compelling. He was saying he was like literally articulate with his words, but he was looking off in random directions. He was like sweaty. He just like he just didn't look the just sort of didn't look the part.
Yeah, humans pick up body language like crazy, and
Mhm.
females more than males. Females always have these secret powers that we don't have, and one of them is you can read a room way easier than guys can. You probably don't know that, Laura Land, but you can.
no.
No.
Yeah, I, I do kind of know that.
Yeah.
Personally, I think I had a boss once upon a time, way back when, who I would say, well, this person is so and so, and I would come to this conclusion about this person after not a lot of interaction with the person, and I would say something or whatever, and my boss was like, no, you jump to conclusions about people, you just don't give people the chance to to really whatever. And then he came back to me a few months later, and he's like, you know what, you've got something. You've got something, you're able to sort of figure it out. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's maybe something there.
men have a blind spot. I just saw a really funny cartoon the other day. Um, this guy wakes up in the morning, he goes to the refrigerator, and there's a note on the refrigerator that says, "It's not working anymore. I'm leaving." And he takes the note off the refrigerator, and then he opens up the refrigerator and goes, "No, it's working great."
Yes, you have to be very prescriptive with your words.
You do,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'm waiting for a for some laptop company. I'm very surprised it hasn't happened yet a, to put the laptop's camera or a desktop, like to put the camera somehow build it right into the center of everyone's screens rather
That's
than like
Uh,
rather
yeah.
than right above it. Because now we're all used to doing these types of things, and it's the equivalent of the three of us sitting around for a conversation, but I'm just staring at everyone's necks when I'm talking.
right.
So,
Right,
True.
because everyone is like sort
Great
of not
idea.
looking, not looking at the
right.
camera like you're supposed to, but you're looking like below, you're looking at the screen because it feels like a conversation, yet
Yeah,
you're like, according to the camera, you're staring too low. So
right.
there must be some technical thing that I don't know computers, but there must be some technical reason that they can't do it because it seems to me like an obvious thing to just put a tiny little camera right in the center of the screen. Maybe it's too distracting to do other things, but
Interesting.
Yeah,
Wow.
no, that's an interesting idea. And I tell you, because I've got kids that are grown, right? My kids won't be taking, pictures of each other. My kids are always like, all right, remember when we're looking at the phone, look, look
yeah,
here. Don't look
yeah,
just to the
yeah,
middle of the thing because you're not going to look
yeah,
like you're looking into into the camera. They're like, make sure you
yeah.
look here. And it's like,
Mhm.
okay, obviously, but it's not obvious because I have so many pictures of us where I'm like, looking high or low or whatever.
Yeah, totally.
So.
Cool. What else? It, what can I help you guys with? I feel like, this is like intimate, like Mark said. Is there anything new for you, Laura Land or Patrick? Or
No, no, for us, we're just trying to get our funnel full. Get our Convey Connect app in front of folks and
Yep.
kind of slow towards the end of the year. And, hopefully things are going to pick back up with the start of the new year and new budgets and all of that. So, I mean, I think for us, we did enjoy our, the ability to present to the forum, to your
Yeah,
forums.
yeah. Hopefully that video will travel. You can use it and
Exactly.
cut it to pieces. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. For sure.
I never know who watches these things. When we have a startup that presents, yeah, it's amazing how people will say a year later, "Hey, I saw, NanoCon. I learned all about NanoCon."
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Well, and that's
I
one.
got a message. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say quick fast. That's one thing I've learned about just from podcasting, from our podcasting aspect of our business, is how evergreen content is.
yeah,
Because, after you would think that after a year, people aren't going to go back and look for, OTA podcast or AOFAS podcast, whatever. But people do. People do. If they're interested in the content and interested in, kind of doing the search for it, they will find. So I think there is an amount of evergreenness up to a point, to digital media that surprised me.
I'll share just for a second. I mean, I got this just yesterday. I forgot about this. I got this just, wait, that's not it. Um, I got, where is it? Tiger, you'll appreciate this. I got this just yesterday. I listened to your interview with Tiger and found it interesting. Like, so,
There you go.
yeah, it was, and that was so, yeah, it does live. These things live. They have a shelf life far longer than
They do.
the
And
release
and
date.
especially I think YouTube is amazing because of their algorithm. Whatever you spend time on at YouTube, it shows you more subjects like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, I think YouTube, and I totally agree with you, Laura Land. When I write articles, I try to make them evergreen content. Unless it's news like Tecumet, and Orchid merging, that's just news. It'll disappear in a few weeks. But things, other things, I try to write it, what another thing that blows me away is I write an article every day, right? And I've been doing it for 15 years, and people will literally, I'll do a recruiting call. Hey, I read your article on this, and I said, really? And they, tell me. And they said, I just read your article. It's great. And I'm thinking, I wrote that 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And the person doesn't know it's not fresh. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and we have the capability to sort of reinvigorate it too, as you were saying. We can, take something that's been published or been produced or whatever, and then, use a clip of it as on social media, or use refer back to the main thing. And I think it just makes the cycle sort of live so much longer, which I think is really good. But there's also a lot of stuff out there, man. There's a lot of stuff out there. So I think that's one of the tricks, I think, for all of us in the entrepreneurial world is how do we create, that voice that's going to get some resonance? How do you
yeah,
how do you get some share of voice? How do you get heard above all the noise, above all the cat videos, and above all
yeah.
the things that can be just a big
Well,
distraction.
yeah, I think I'll give you some advice that I've learned, and you have to pick a very narrow niche. If you're talking about or writing about orthopedics, nobody cares. But if you're talking about a really specific thing that is in search terms, I don't know, uh, something really specific, somebody will be on YouTube or Google searching for that and it'll pop up. But nobody searches for orthopedics. So
Right.
you have to be very narrow and specific with your topic. The other thing I really believe is nobody produces enough content. So you have to we get instant feedback now when we do a podcast or produce something. So you can just do hundreds of things and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And then when something gets traction, you do more of that. So people don't trial and error enough. I,
Mm.
I really believe. Um, and then the third thing is you have to be different. And that's what I hate about, all this company media that comes out you know, hey, here's Dr. Johnson. We're having an interview with Dr. Johnson about our new hip system, and it's got this new, coating on the side, and this is really exciting. And it's just, oh, the lighting's perfect. It's scripted. It's just terrible. And that's what the compliance department lets them do that. They won't let them just go out and do a man on the street thing,
Right.
you know, just wing it with a cell phone. So you got to be different. Different. Osseo probably has some of the best content. Artelon had really good content before they got acquired. Uh, Treese does some good content, but it's different.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So anyway,
Because it hasn't gone through 9 layers of lawyers.
yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
that's probably what, like, or yeah, I mean, maybe that's a little too critical of the lawyers. The people who are predisposed to work at the bigger companies, especially the ones who are going to make those videos, those are not like senior positions. Those are people that are very protective of like not taking things that could be perceived as risky within the
Yeah,
organization. Um, and standing out is not always like a feature or there's a limit to like how far outside of the sort of norms a lot of people especially in those types of jobs that the really large companies will be willing to to go because they're not being asked by their bosses often, like, let's look totally different than everybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had a little experience. So when COVID hit in 2000, the recruiting was gone. And Osseo called me up and they said, "Hey, we want you to help us with our marketing, stuff." And so I had a digital meeting, digital media friend, and and Brennan said, "I love Brennan. You guys have probably met Brennan." Um, he said, "I want you to show me some campaigns that scare me so I can't even sleep at night." He goes, "I want to toss and turn in my bed all night thinking about it." And so we gave him three choices, and he picked the hippie one. It's sort of back to nature hippie one is he that he picked, and then they ran with it. And it doesn't, their surgical training doesn't look like anybody else's. They've got like dry ice and loud music and posters and armbands, and when they did their training, it was an experience. It didn't look like medicine at all. And I don't know what they do now, but I knew what they did 5 years ago, and it looks different. Back to nature became kind of one of their things, and then they started doing man on the street. So they would, every time their marketing person was on the road, she would just go downtown and take a metal screw and a osseo screw and just ask people in the street, would you rather put this in your body or this in your body? This one turns into bone. And that was, and it was like a Jay Leno, thing on the street.
Yeah.
And man, those things were powerful. And then they started getting the pediatrics and they would say, "Do you want to put this in your child or this in your child?" And man, nobody, Smith and Nephew can't do that. Zimmer can't do that. They're not allowed to, you
Yeah.
know. So I totally agree. That's interesting.
Mhm.
Totally.
Tiger,
Totally.
as a recruiter, answer a
Yeah,
question for me that I think I know the answer to, but
yeah,
I'm curious yours. Why don't, especially in a fair amount of sort of mid-level and higher positions within not even just orthopedics, but medical devices in general, the overall compensation is high enough that, like, I've never understood, or I've been surprised that there aren't like people that act almost as like agents to get people hired at places. There are recruiters but recruiters work for companies like that. If you are like an individual, let's say, like there's no one on the other end of there's no one, like you don't have anyone, even if if you wanted them or not, it's like you
yeah, yeah.
can't go find someone to
I know your
represent
question.
you on sort of the other end of the train. You can find a generic lawyer and stuff, but they don't
Right,
have
right.
industry expertise and those types of things. So I think I know the answer as to like why that has never sort of like taken off. But I'm curious to what you think.
Yeah, yeah. So I thought about that a long time. I've talked to other recruiters. So recruiters work for companies,
Yep.
and there's two kinds of recruiters. There's contingency and retained. And most people are contingency. There's like 95%. And I hate those guys because they're just emailing resumes all over the place
Yeah.
trying to get lucky. They'll take the same person and email it to 10 companies. They don't care about the company. They don't care about the candidate. And then there's the 5% that have a real relationship with the company, and we spend a lot of time with candidates. And instead of we will give you three, four, five great hireable candidates, and we'll spend a lot of time with them. So anyway, but we get paid by the company. We don't get paid by the individual. I've thought about that model. The hard part is nobody wants to pay for an agent. It's like buying insurance almost. Uh, you know, okay, I want to raise my career, so I'm going to
Mhm.
pay Tiger $1,000 a year to be an advocate for me and look for new jobs. Um, that model has never worked, and I don't know why. You could get, if let's just say you get 100 people paying $1,000 a year, and it just never works. Absolutely never
Mhm.
works. Um, and I don't know why. It's because when the people are happy, they don't need that service. And then when they get fired, all of a sudden they need it, or I don't know.
Yeah. I,
What are,
I've always thought that because recruiters are the obvious people to do it, they don't want to sever if you sort of if you sort of sit on the other side of the table, you can never
Yeah.
go back to working
Yeah.
for the
You're
companies,
representing
or
candidates.
you're
Yeah.
totally conflicted. So
Right.
therefore,
Right.
like, they don't want to burn the bridges with the companies who have deeper pockets, and a person will never call and say, I need 10 jobs at the same time, but a company could call and say, I need you to fill 10 spots or 100
Exactly.
spots or whatever, and the pot of gold is just much larger
Much larger. Yeah.
doing that, and therefore that's always been my assumption why it doesn't work. But like,
I think
I
it's
know
the
you're just making up
economics.
numbers, but like, I would totally pay $1,000 a month if I thought that someone genuinely had, and like, you have to show results, of course, and you got to be coming with actual opportunities, not just this sort of like, money going, sort of going out the door consistently. But like, yeah, if you had enough people, and then there's some extra, like, and if you get placed or something like that, you get whatever percentage of their, no different than recruiters get from the companies, because oftentimes, um, I think recruiters have a better sense. They have a good sense of the going rates for people too, like the
Yeah.
compensation packages and stuff.
Yep.
And in fact, I can think of a couple times in the past in my career where if I had someone actually advocating for me that was willing to be a little bit more confrontational with someone because they weren't their boss the next day, that they would be willing to. I think there could be 5 or 10% extra that probably could have been like gotten
Interesting.
out of there to, that, the numbers all have to work. I just have never understood why it doesn't. The other thing is, like, if you do a good job placing someone, they could be there for 20 years, whereas like agents in other industries, they work on more, if you think of like media, sports,
Sports. Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
acting, those types of things, they work sort of project by project, or in multi, it's like a 2 year window and then another 2 year window. So they're always kind of like doing the next. It's more sort of deal based rather than we could place this person, they could be here for 35 years and then they're sort of out of that market for you
Yeah.
forever.
Yeah.
But I've always thought that there's something there. I can't put my
Me
finger on
too. I mean,
exactly what the business is, but I feel like there's something there.
personal agents. Yeah. I, well, there are personal coaches and people pay for personal coaches,
Yeah.
but they don't help you. They'll help you with your career, but they don't help you with finding
I always feel like that's more
spot.
targeted to like get you better at your existing job, not find you a better next job.
Right. Now there's a thing that a lot of recruiters do that I don't do it. It's called MPC, most placeable candidate. So a lot of people do this where they'll take a candidate that's really strong and with a great resume, and they will anonymously pitch that candidate to companies.
I get those emails. Yeah,
Yeah.
I discard them all immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And all
Yeah.
they're trying to do is they're trying to get their nose under the tent and get a
Mhm.
contract with the company. And that the most placeable candidate is just a teaser.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
that it works for some recruiters, but I think it's a sleazy way of getting a contract,
Mhm.
one of the things I do is I never go out and seek business. So I do zero sales because people just call me out of the blue because I'm out there, and a lot of the companies that call me I've never even heard of them before, and they're small. They're usually pre-revenue or they're early revenue, and they just reach out to me just out of the blue, which is nice. Uh, yeah, recruiting. When I was a recruiter. When I was working in industry, I hired a ton of people, and you know, you sort of have a love-hate relationship with recruiters, but it all came to crescendo when I was at Ellipse Technologies, and I had to replace all 6 engineers, and
Mhm.
and I'm going, well, I know everybody in the industry, I can do this myself, so And so I had this spreadsheet. I'll never forget. I had 145 people in this spreadsheet, and I was calling them, emailing them, texting them. Come out to California. I work for Lips, and it just became 10 hours a day, and I couldn't do my regular job. And I just said, forget it. I'm going to hire one of my favorite recruiters, and it's like, why didn't I do that earlier?
Mhm.
It was, I mean, you just put it in the budget, and there's great people just coming into your email box. Um, yeah, so recruiting is I hate the word recruiter. Everybody you know, tries to, a lot of people try to rename themselves, but everybody knows what a recruiter or headhunter is. So, it's a necessary evil. Every industry's got recruiters that know that industry really well, and they're valuable. Good,
Yeah.
great question though. It's got like a candidate agent. The other
Yeah.
problem with your model though, if I'm got 100 people that I'm working for, they're just going to wear me out. You know, do you have
Yeah,
any?
they're gonna be always be calling like, hey,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
If especially if they're paying me, it's like, hey, it's Thursday. Do you
Yeah.
have anything this Thursday? Um, yeah. The hilarious emails I get, Patrick, are, hey, this is Joe. I just got fired. Or this is Joe. Uh, I'm not happy. I'm looking for my next career move. Help me find a job.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know you. I've never, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
and I usually send a nice note back saying, well, I work for companies, not candidates. Uh,
Yeah.
but here's some advice,
Yeah.
interesting. So, Patrick, did you not get the invite automatically for this call? Was it uh, Laura Lan and Mark said that it wasn't on your calendar like normal?
It was on mine. It was on mine like normal. I was ready to log in and my phone rang
Okay,
at like
got it, got it.
1:59 Central
That's
Time.
interesting.
So,
Somehow we botched the invite this week, but it was
Um,
open to.
I,
I'm going to fix
yeah,
it.
I got both of the emails, but somehow I didn't, it wasn't on my, and in fact, what's on my calendar is still the one from how to utilize LinkedIn without automation
Oh, wow. So
from a
that's
couple of weeks ago, right?
yeah,
3 weeks ago.
yeah, 2 weeks ago. That's Mark's. Oh, that was before Bill
Oh, it's
Hunter, I think.
Josh. Yeah, the Josh
Josh.
Zuckerman one.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah. Anyway, I had Bill Hunter on mine for the longest time. For the longest time, it was always Bill Hunter, and I'm like, well,
Yeah.
when is Bill Hunter going to present? Actually,
Yeah, I got to fix that. I got to figure out, I got to talk to Ann and fix that. I'm trying to make it easy for everybody. I don't want to take your time, but I want it to be automatically who's up this next week, open discussion or Bill Hunter or somebody.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah,
So,
we got some new startups in queue. It usually takes people a few weeks and contacts them and, tries to lock in a date and then come up with a topic. If you guys think of anybody that we should bring on, throw them my way. There are so many startups, it's and I wrote about this like last year. There's easily 1,000 orthopedic startups that nobody's heard of.
yeah,
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's crazy, but it's good though. It's good that
It's
there's
good.
still so much innovation. That people are looking for new things, new ways.
yeah.
One of the things that came out of JP Morgan is they said the seed money investments are going up. It used to be like 500,000. Now they're talking, a lot of the early investors are giving 2 million, you know, and that's really a good sign, actually. The first seed amount's going way up.
Yeah, I think that is good for sure because costs are higher. Costs
Yeah.
are for sure.
But on the other side, costs are lower because of AI and all the business tools. You can do more with less people. You don't
Yeah.
need an office anymore. Um, yeah, I'm seeing some really scrappy small startups.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have, guys. We'll see you next week.
Absolutely.
Okay, and
All
Again,
right.
Raquel.
thanks. Have a great week.
See ya.
Okay.
All right. See you. Bye.
Bye.